A woman's anger is one of the most transformative catalysts there is in the world. No wonder why everyone tries to suppress it.
This episode that I like to call Why Anger Was Never the Problem, I want to get into how anger has been villainized in the spiritual community for women in particularly, how this shows up in your life, and how you can begin to harness the energy that is anger. Growing up and evolving into womanhood meant that you needed to be nice, you needed to be pleasant, sweet, in order to be seen as someone respectable. It is often what women aspire to be, is to be well liked, to be cared about, to be perceived as friendly. But unfortunately, with that means there is a constant push, be it quietly or loudly, that being a woman and being angry is a negative attribute. To show anger, to show being disappointed, to show rage is perceived as unladylike. You can Google anything in regards to femininity content, and most you will hear is that you are to be sweet, pleasant, and kind, always generous, always putting others before yourself over your own needs. I have a few observations that I want to share and help to really set the stage on why anger was never the problem, but it's our society, it's our collective. Your anger in its most purest, rawest form is one of the most catastrophic catalysts that you can tap into as a woman. And being able to tap into that as a woman can create such dynamic, life transformational change. This then should not surprise you that society as the collective, with being under this very heaviness of misogyny, wants you to continue to suppress. Now, wrapping up my master's degree here in a few weeks, I look at a lot of the conditions that often are plagued by women the most, not saying it doesn't show up in either gender, but no matter how you look at the spectrum, depression and anxiety are two things that are commonly seen in women. And I really do believe with depression, especially when we have years, decades worth of anger sitting within our bodies, we become detached from our bodies, and that heaviness that we feel, it's now showing up in our physical realm of our everyday. I also look at a lot of inflammation issues that are caused by having to suppress our anger, our rage. I firmly believe that anger, especially if you are in the spiritual arena, we have taken anger, given it a villainized it, and have been pushing a brand of femininity and spirituality that is devoid of balance. We have been told that in order for us to show evolution, to show growth, we are able to soften our approaches. We are able to be grounded in how we accept things. We allow ourselves to turn the other cheek, never show displeasement, never allowing anything to bother us. Because if we are allowed to do that, then we are not evolved. We are not in our higher self. But if we really were, we would understand that there is no separatistness when it comes to energy. Energy is energy. Now, yes, some energy may be more on the lower end of the spectrum, but it is a spectrum. So it is all within itself. We often get this real big push of love and light, and that is perceived as something to be aspiring to, and that is the standard. That is the expectation of being someone who is evolved, especially as a woman. This, I believe, is one of the most damaging things that the spiritual elements does in this particular era for women. Your suppression of anger by the collective is not by coincidence. It's very much architect. When women are able to tap into their anger, they're able to tap into their rage, this then becomes very fiery. And fire is one of the greatest things to purify things. When you put metal through fire, what's left is going to be that in which that can stand the test of time. If we were to begin really putting a lot of our relationships, belief systems, structures under fire, a lot of things would not continue to exist. And therefore, keeping you suppressed, keeping all that anger burning within you is what then allows society as the collective to continue. Now, when I think about anger and how it shows up in the body, when it comes to anxiety, often I like to look at it is at the point of anger that has nowhere to go. So you're just feeling on edge and on alert all the time, but there's not a directive of where it needs to go. The same thing for depression. There's so much out there that shows that depression is anger, but it's turned inwardly. So when you start to see how this starts to manifest in your physical being, on the mental, and we all understand that the mental then starts to show up in the body. We start having all these aches and pains. We have all these digestive issues. We are disconnected from our bodies so intimately, we are not able to actually enjoy any sort of sexual pleasurement or just being in tune to our bodies. We are disconnected. This is all rooted into anger. And women, if you have not heard this particular statement, but women are essentially a portal. Women are portals. We are the conduit between the material world and the spiritual realm. With our society going the way that it is, having that connection is going to be an issue, always an issue to the collective. Keeping women bridled and small helps to support the collective. Now, as I get into some of the ways that I want you to begin to reflect on anger differently, I do want to also acknowledge the woman out there that is in her midlife era. So a lot of what we see in perimenopause, women having extreme hot flashes, inability to sleep, hyper irritable, not being able to connect with one's body, feeling betrayed by one's body. I have a really deep suspicion that a lot of what that is us going into that final stage of life and having to reconcile all of what we have been living and experiencing. And therefore, a lot of that anger that we have not allowed to flow through us is now being in a very fast track way being forced through our bodies. So we are suffering from all this heat and anxiety and exhaustion because of the suppression of womanhood. Now, I want to go into a way of how you should be looking at your anger. I like to reframe it. So, anger being looked at as wrong, especially if you're someone who is of the spiritual affinity or just in life in general for women, anger is looked at such a horrible thing to do. It shows that you are not able to control yourself. Anger is one of the truest things that you can feel and acknowledge. By acknowledging it, it is giving you a good indicator that something again is not right. You are experiencing something that is not true and is countercultural. The more that you try to suppress it, the more havoc it creates within inside of you. Then, in my opinion, that then does nothing more than to catapult it when it does come out of you, because you have now compounded anger onto anger into rage, and this dissolves the body. By calling anger low vibrational, a lower frequency, that is a collective way of silencing the truth. You don't typically feel anger and rage about things that are true, things that are balanced, things that are just. We feel this when they're the opposite of that. So by telling women, especially those in the spiritual realm, that by having anger, sitting with anger, you are being low vibrational, and there's always this incentivization to be at our highest self, because by being in our higher selves, we can then some way be able to sidestep any negative expressions of frequency. This was a way to keep you silenced and to keep you culpable in what is not right. Your anger is not the opposite of being divine. If anything, your anger is a guide to your divinity. Standing at the door of your truth and your worth and your value is to ensure that you are doing it in a way that is truly aligned with the truly higher self and with the divine. So by being able to tap into your anger, you are able to then tap into what is the truth, what is aligned, and allows you to live and be more fluidly the way you want to be and the way that you would want to see the world. So, ways that you can begin to start pivoting away from looking at anger as a negative is, one, actually allowing it to be what it is and not seeing it as negative or seeing it as wrong. In my younger years, I would get very angry with myself for being angry. I would then begin to belittle myself for having those thoughts. Now I allow anger to come in, I unpack it, I see what it is and why there may be something that's coming up. Anger can be a great teacher. Often things that may make you angry are not necessarily the thing, but it is a prompter for you to sit back and reflect. Instead of looking at it as wrong, I look at it as a way to analyze myself, and then I allow it to flow out. When we think something is negative, we think something is bad, we lock that down into our bodies. And yes, this is where then there is this disconnect of higher self, because you can't ascend higher because you have so much dense energy. The density is not negative, but we don't want to carry that for long periods of time. So allowing it to be without looking at it from a place of wrongness, rightness, duality allows you to experience a greater expression and allows that anger to be helpful. Number two, look at it as a way again to trace back on elements of your life and the way that you are living that are not lining up to your true self and what is really your truth, living in a life that is abundantly yours. When we have had poor relationships, maybe it's that in your youth you allowed yourself to be taken advantage of, or things happened to you in your younger years that were not just, and you were told that this was to be okay and that you needed to accept it, knowing that this was not right. Now you kind of can fast forward to where you are in your life today. Something can happen that can trigger that, and then this gives you the opportunity to review it, unpack it, and then release it, and then pivot your ways to not allow that behavior again. When I talk to women and work with women in my consulting, oftentimes they have accepted certain behaviors, and in order for you to truly harness the power of your anger, is to reflect on it, to give yourself love and grace, and then establish boundaries and how you would need to operate so that you can continue living in a more holistic view. One last piece that I would say would be very helpful in how you navigate anger is, again, allowing the anger to flow through you. And when you are feeling this, actually move your body. For whatever reason, when I think of anger, I think of like Aries fire energy. And that can be a great proponent of movement. So that could be getting up for a walk, taking an aggressive workout class, or working out really, really difficult, doing something with your hands to get that out of you. I often, if it's really late in the night and I feel a lot of anger, I may get up and actually work with my herbs. This movement and allowing it to float, allowing it to exist, and then to move forward out of you is going to allow you to, again, benefit from anger, but then not holding on to it so that you are free to flow. Now, I want to give you a little bit of some reflection. I just want you to sit with this for a few minutes. What has your anger been trying to tell you that you won't allow yourself to hear? Really think about that. What has anger been trying to tell you? It's been trying to get your attention, yet you are not allowing yourself to hear. Now, granted, our society has done a really great job of trying to ensure that you don't tap in, that you are disconnected. Because if you're constantly disconnected, you are always going to be then easily swayed, easily manipulated, and the constant moving target of what womanhood is can be easily moved and pivoted because you're so detached from yourself. Because if you were connected to yourself, you would then feel this anger about what is going on. And then it would prompt you to start to do some deep reflection and potentially have to make some moves differently. So again, what has anger been trying to tell you that you have not allowed yourself to hear? Allow that anger to surface and allow it to be. It is something that is very important at this time in this era of our lives as women, because as women, we are the change agents of society. We are the discriminators of society if we are able to be connected. By being consistently disconnected, you are not able to discriminate on things that should not continue under your tutelage. As I wrap up, I want to leave you with this today. Your anger is not evidence of you being broken or defective. Your anger is actually a very great indicator of you being alive, and that there is proof that there is something that still needs to be pushed out, because on the very much core level, you understand your value, your worth in this world, and there's something that is disjointed. And so therefore, even though you may have forgotten it, it's still there, and that's why you're feeling this anger. What I challenge you to do in the upcoming week with this particular podcast is that I want you, instead of trying to manage your anger, soften it, try to pray it away, do whatever spiritual work that you may try to do with it, I want you to actually sit with it. I want you to sit with it. I want you to look at it, acknowledge it deeply, and then allow it to be the teacher instead of your tormentor, instead of what you feel embarrassed by. By sitting with it, you will allow yourself to evolve into higher places. You can't evolve from a preschool level of integration of self. That only comes when you are able to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Women who make radical life changes don't do so by playing small, playing the victim, playing into the collective energy that is useless. How women actually change is by sitting with it, sitting with the discomfort, and then truly being rooted and grounded in how they need to move differently. It may be uncomfortable, however, you will grow by leaps and bounds by allowing your anger to be used by you in a positive way. If this podcast resonated with you, I would love for you to leave me some comments, no matter where platform you're listening to this. And until next time, make sure you are living your most evolved life.